Welcome to San Joaquin Spotlight, a public affairs program featuring conversations about life in the central San Joaquin Valley. This program is brought to you in partnership between KFSR 90.7 FM and CMAC Fresno. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Welcome to downtown Fresno at the Community Media Access Collaborative Studios. Today we actually have two people from the Downtown Fresno Coalition. Thank you for coming on the program. Both of you are with this Downtown Fresno Coalition organization. Before we talk about that, let's tell our audience members a little bit about both of you. So, Doug Richert, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I also have an interesting perspective of the downtown area because my father was an attorney, and since we were little kids, we'd be playing in the offices, the law offices that he had. So I've seen the Fulton Mall really from about the late 70s on up to today.
I have a lot of friends that have been in Fresno for a long time, and a lot of them remember the days like you're remembering where, the mall was busy, there were a lot of kids playing in the mall, just a lot of, Gottschalk's was there, so people were going shopping on the mall. So it's been interesting for you, I imagine, to see the difference now and the difference back then.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the changes in Fresno have just been enormous. If you've lived here, you kind of identify your northern boundary by, once it was Belmont, and then it was McKinley, and then Shaw, and then Herndon, and now, there's some people that don't go south of Copper. I mean, it's really been a very one-dimensional growth.
Mm-hmm. And I remember when people tell me, we used to go to so-and-so's hot dog stand on the mall, or so-and-so's ice cream place on the mall, or, when we wanted to go Christmas shopping, guess where we would go? Gottschalk's.
I got my winter coat every year, Woolworths. My mother brought me down to the Fulton Mall, and there were electric trams on the Fulton Mall during my childhood, so we rode up and down that electric tram to go to the different stores like Gottschalk's, JCPenney, and so we were regular shoppers at the Fulton Mall throughout my childhood.
Can any of you answer what happened? I mean, what are some of the reasons, because it's not too long ago, really, that the place was active, that they tell me people were going there shopping and stuff. Either of you, what happened, do you think?
Well, I think there are several reasons besides the mall that hurt the area. One is the growth that we talked about. And it was really very a one-directional, and I would really call it almost cancerous because it went in one direction, uncontrolled. Rather, if you look on a map of Fresno, the downtown in its heyday was the center geographically of the town. And now if you look at it, you imagine a pie wedge, and the downtown's at the bottom of the edge, and then the rest of Fresno's all on the northern boundary. And so it stopped being the geographic center of downtown. And thus you had the growth of the wealth going out north too, further and further from the downtown. Another factor that was really big, I think, in the decline of the downtown and Fulton specifically is when they allowed multi-story buildings to be built outside of the downtown triangle out on 41 on the northern edge. And that's why you have almost as many people working out at Herndon and 41 as you do downtown. And those factors really played in taking a lot of the opportunity away from the downtown.
Law firms moved up north. In the late 50s, Fig Garden Village was built, Manchester Center. And after that point, really that sort of nail in the coffin was also Fashion Fair. I mean, once you have retail centers, large retail centers up north, there's no need to come downtown. The Fulton Mall went in, though, as a way to save, believe it or not, the retail at the side at the time on Fulton Street. They thought an innovative approach would be to make it into an urban park, and that people would have a couple of different reasons to go. They could enjoy the art, the water features, and they could still shop in specialty stores and some of the anchor stores. But the more that the people moved north and they didn't want to drive downtown, there was no need for these large stores to stay. So the mall itself is not the demise of downtown. It was all of this growth, all of this, as Doug has described, with factors.
Like it.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Kate.
I worked for Fresno Unified and the downtown as a district administrator. My mother was also an attorney, like Doug's father, and I worked for her. And then now I'm a business owner. I'm a co-owner of the Republican, which is formerly the Downtown Club. We're not on the mall, but we're nearby. So I have a very vested interest. But I grew up, as I mentioned, being brought to the mall And then fast forward, my father became extremely involved, and he was the original chair for 12 years of this organization. And then he was tired after a while, wanted to retire. And after I came back from being gone in San Diego for 2 years, I came back. In 2012, I became the interim chair as we really expanded this organization, got much more involved. I brought the social media into the group. Doug came on board. And then all of a sudden, you know, we've got over 700 likes on our Facebook page. There's not just a few of fringe group now. This is a large group of people that don't want to lose this incredible resource to our city.
And by talking about the incredible resource, we're talking about actually the Fulton Mall.
That's right.
Can you give us a background or history, either of you, a history of the mall? I mean, when was its prime? When did it get built? Why did it get built? You know, and give us some background, because to be honest with you, had I not had my elder friends, I would not know anything about it, you know, and I'm being completely honest.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll start and I'll let Doug tag in, jump in. So it was the fanfare opening was September of 1964, and this was after a period of time the city had contracted a city planner, Victor Gruen, and then he subcontracted the landscape architect Garrett Ekbo, who was known internationally, both of these men, with a city plan, with a city center, the way the freeways and the roads were designed, and that the centerpiece was the Fulton Mall for 6 blocks. And a group of prominent citizens at the time raised the money for the art, the public art on the mall. There's a water system that goes underneath. This is very intricate. We're talking about taking out not just pavement, but water system that goes underneath, that for the fountains, you know, the fountain and water features we've both mentioned. And they got international attention. It was the first mall of its type. So it's not just a closed off street, it's actually, there's an architectural design to the pavement, to the trees chosen, to the artwork, the placement of the artwork, in conjunction with the buildings. And also, of course, at the time, people were shopping via electric trams, to get that in there. People talk about, I don't want to walk or park. Well, it was all, the city had it all figured out, and we got a lot of attention at the time. But once these other malls opened, and once the demographics of Fresno changed, the socioeconomic levels changed, people who weren't coming downtown, they deemed downtown unsafe. But again, the mall was a victim of this, not the cause. Did I leave something out? I really shortened up the design and the prominence of this design of the mall.
Another interesting and vital point to make about the mall is that, like Kate said, it's not just a street that was closed off. And this is one of the arguments that people are proponents of the road state, is they cite these malls that have traffic reintroduced and say, look at these numbers. Well, a lot of those malls weren't designed like the Fulton Mall. They were basically no cars, put up a couple things, throw some benches in, a couple trash cans, there you go. The mall itself was actually, can be interpreted as a piece of art in and of itself. A good way to look at it, a good interpretation of it, is look at it as representing the San Joaquin Valley itself.
That's what the design has, yes.
You have the mall, the walking mall itself is the valley floor. You have the tall buildings on the edge, which represents the coastal range and the Sierra Nevadas. There are, at Kern and the other cross streets, there are like little mini malls, and those can represent the mountain passes. You have the taller trees in the north representing the redwoods up in the Trinity Alps, up in the farther north in California. And you have the water features that represent the rivers of the San Joaquin Valley.
And also the irrigation system. He had artist Stan Bitters, who's a local, design these ceramic standpipes to represent the agricultural side. So every feature, the mosaics, look to be part of the valley floor or the colors of the valley, the agricultural side of the valley. So to tear all this out, once it's gone, it's never going to come back. And so what our group has been proponents of is, why not maintain, refurbish, and promote the mall? Case in point, whenever we have the ice rink, you've seen it. People come from all across town because there are billboards, there's TV and radio advertising. They give free parking. They tell them where to park. People walk from their car, and they ice skate with their family. So it's here. We have this beautiful place that people can come, but our city has chosen to not only ignore it, but actually let it become decayed.
Interesting. You know, and I want to ask either of you this question because we've had people on this show talk about how they're all in for opening the mall. So I want to ask you what they've told me is the mall right now, and either of you can answer.
Yeah, sure.
The mall right now is dying a very, very slow death. This opening of the mall would bring life. It would, and what they point is to like Old Town Pasadena or Southern California, some of the areas there. So that's the argument that they've presented on this program before. So here's your opportunity to kind of mitigate that argument or talk about your perspective.
Well, the major point and argument and source of evidence that they use is they'll use a study that compared, that listed the number of malls in America that were reconverted to traffic, and they go, voila, look at this, all these malls were converted to traffic, downtowns are thriving, voila, you have it. But what hasn't been studied is, were those areas revitalized because of the investment or because of the traffic? And that's a real key, it sounds like a subtle point, but it does make a difference. Is it the investment in the area that revitalized it or the traffic? There's been no studies to correlate that. Another thing is it because of the times that happened? Like in the 90s when most of these mall conversions happened that they quote, you also had the ending of the Cold War, and so we had an economic boon unseen since the end of World War II. So was it that economic boom that rose the downtowns, or was it the actual opening of traffic? Those studies have not been decided. Now, one thing that is for the business or the property owners that they're latching onto is when there's been no investment at all in the area, and the city's invested nothing in the area, they're latching onto the idea, hey, we're going to get some sort of investment. And so I can kind of understand their hope on that, because the city is saying, well, you can get nothing or you're going to get what we're going to do for you. So,
well, I guess the idea is that, and we've had urban planners from other cities. I'm not going to name them by name because I don't want to give them any publicity, but we've had various people come through town and speak to all of our leaders and tout that the car is important. Now, when I heard that, I thought, is this some kind of joke? I mean, this is to me a ludicrous idea with a city that struggles with its air quality, with all the other concerns that we have with our atmosphere, with the temperatures that we have, that we're going to put another strip of asphalt down and somehow that people can drive by a store, that they would see the stores and therefore their visibility, talk about visibility, that a car brings people to a place. No doubt about it, we're a car-centric city, but that's a problem. And we should be looking for alternatives to that rather than increasing our use of the vehicle. And also, we have people moving around here. They've moved into the neighborhood. They can walk onto the mall. They can go to the coffee shop that we should have on the mall. We should have smaller, locally owned stores on the mall. People are not going to come here for Old Navy. They're going to go to Fashion Fair. I mean, that just, the idea that this is going to change, that people are going to leave these other shopping centers and come here is a fallacy. So what would make people come here? Probably an event center of some type, cultural events, which do bring people, stores that are unique, places like we have a pub on the mall that bring a huge number of people from all over Fresno. So it's not that people won't come here, it's what will bring them here. What's going to incentivize these current property owners, many of whom are not locals, to keep their buildings up, have the city give them incentives and help to keep their buildings up. Then we have the question of the money to have this job. I think we should, if we can, segue into that right now. Currently the city doesn't show that they have the money to complete this job as bid. Can you talk about that? Is that something we can?
Sure.
Do you want to go into that?
Well,
I don't want to lose that.
The thing is, it's your
point.
opportunity
Right.
to talk about stuff that you haven't been able to get out there. Because I'm going to
Right.
be completely honest with you. If I have 10 friends,
Yeah.
8 or 9 of them are all in for opening the mall. So I'm going to throw that out there right now because that's the side that is out there. We hear about it more.
Right.
So
right.
your side has been relatively, I don't want to say quiet, because I read online some things that you're working on, but
Right.
but it's your opportunity to tell the audience, your perspective.
Well, I mean, I appreciate it. You're asking us to make the case and make the point of what would be the reason to not do that. But I think that more the case has to be, the burden is on the other side to show and to use these old studies in these other cities that, case in point, Lexington, Kentucky, They had returned their downtown they took out their pedestrian mall, they closed it off. A friend of mine spent a month this summer doing a residency for university there, and the only thing they were promised that on that closed up, now it's the streets open again. There's all just KFC, a CVS. There were no interesting coffee shops and all the things, and that all again, there's a decline again on that street that was promised to the city to be this wonderful place of commerce, and it's just these terrible chains and nobody walking there, people just driving through, and they took out a beautifully, fairly landscaped area at a promise to what? To bring more business, and it's a bunch of chain stores.
Well, I think, and I would add on that it's obvious the area needs an investment in it, and we're not denying that. Our point is that let's take this unique cultural, historical space, invest in it, and make it more valuable. A great example, we have a perfect example here locally of what we're talking about, and that's the old Fresno County Courthouse and the old administration building on Fresno City. If you remember, if anybody who's seen pictures of the old courthouse before it was destroyed, beautiful classic design, you look at that and compare it to what's there now, you're thinking, why'd that happen?
Right.
Well, at the time, the argument was, well, it's too expensive to refurbish, it's old, it's run down. We got to have something new. That's the way to go. Well, the same argument was made with the old administration building on the Fresno City campus. It's full of bats. It's old. It's not seismic. It's going to cost too much. We'd be better off getting new rooms. Well, at that point in time, people said, no, this is an asset worth saving. And so they saved it. And it was expensive to refurbish. And it did cost money, and it did take some time. But you look at it now, it is the most beautiful building probably in the whole entire state college system. Yes. And you look at the pictures of the courthouse, and all that's left is the cupola on the Fresno County Fairgrounds, and we have that same choice facing us today. Investment in an area to preserve an asset, or destroy it and put something new in.
Talk about the trees and the water features and the sculpture. I mean, if the plan works and the street were to be open, are those things going to be preserved?
Well, this is the issue.
Obviously,
our group is the road proponents say this project is going to replace most of the sculptures, save some of the trees, replant trees, replace the artwork in close to the same positions after fixing it up. Well, our concern is that the project was 32% over the estimate. The lowest bid was 32% over. And so they have to come up with cuts to that. And that they're still over $2 million over budget, even doing their first elimination of the ad alternates. Our concern is, well, if you have a street, you got to have a certain amount of asphalt. You have to have a certain amount of curb. You got to have painting. There are certain things that you can't cut if you're going to have a street.
Right.
But you can cut the art. You can cut the fountains. You can switch the trees from a large tree down to a 5-gallon tree. And so the only place to cut in this project is in the amenities. And then soon you have a street just like in Chinatown. Okay, you got two-way traffic, you got on-car parking, but you don't have anything, the area's not revitalized.
There's 19 works of art. I forget how many trees we've counted that would be lost. We spent some time looking at this, and we're talking about old growth trees, and these trees were actually chosen with care for what they would be for this area. And I think at this point we don't see that the city has again proven their case, and there's a lot of concern with the lack of where the funds are going to come from this. Is it $3,000 to $5,000 that the city's over?
Well, the city...
The bid.
Yeah, it also depends on what figure they're using.
Right.
The city for sure has $17.4 million. They say it's a $20 million project, and they say this other money is not going to be from the local coffers. And they just haven't been able to demonstrate that. Mm-hmm. They did just come out with some documents that said they're going to get $2.9 million from local gas tax. Okay. And that's a very nefarious thing. Is that county tax? Is that state tax? We've talked to state representatives, and they know nothing about any state funds going to the city. Mm-hmm. So we have some questions on the funding. But let's take them at the word. They got their $20 million. Well, the project's at $22 million right now. And they also, in this latest information they released for the councilmen this week, they gave a net, the final city net cost is going to be 25.9 using their numbers. So that's $6 million over their figure using their figures. We think the number's more. And of course, our concern is, how do you make that up? Well, you cut the amenities that's going to make, that they say is going to make it a special street, a special return to Fulton to its glory, and going to be just another street that you see downtown with empty storefronts on it.
So if I understand correctly, your argument is you don't have to open it. It could still be revived. It could still be brought to life. There are other ways to do it other than opening it and allowing cars to.
Absolutely.
That's right.
There's no question that it needs to be renovated and refurbished.
Very much
Any
so.
50-year-old structure needs so. You can go to any strip mall here in Fresno, and they will have had 2 to 3 times the amount of maintenance done on it that the Fulton Mall has. I mean, just imagine your local center that you go by all the time. You've probably seen it be repainted at least once or twice in the last 15 years. The Fulton Mall has been totally neglected, and it obviously needs to be refurbished and renovated, and it could be a unique cultural asset. I mean, it's going to be a valuable space as we go more towards reducing the traffic footprint that we're looking for. Most cities are going in the opposite direction. They're trying to figure out how to take away traffic space and make more space for pedestrians and bicycles.
Scottsdale,
And-
Arizona, parts of Los Angeles. I mean, we could, for every city that they've used in various studies, our city has used, we can probably give you 2 or 3 others that are closing up streets to be malls. I mean, Santa Monica has the Promenade. There are many, many cities doing this.
So we're running out of time. I mean, we
Yeah.
can talk for an hour about this.
Yes, there's a lot
Absolutely.
more we could say.
There's a lot more, but so there's no, I mean, what's the middle ground here? So you've got one side saying opening it. We've got your side saying don't open it, but invest more in it.
Well,
is there a middle? I mean,
Absolutely. Our compromise
Yes.
is what we're calling the alley option. There exist right now alleys on the Fulton Mall that are on the east and west of the Fulton Mall. And there's enough space for them to have one-way traffic each way.
One way to go north, one way to go south.
Plus parking in different areas. We would preserve them all, refurbish and regenerate it to keep it for pedestrian use only. And the advantage of diverting the traffic from destroying them all like they want down the center to putting it on the alleys is it's closer to the existing parking structures that they say, that the city and the road proponents say in their own plans that we have to use. One of their arguments they kind of give lip service to is we need on-street parking because parking is so
Can't gain that
difficult
many
for
spots.
downtime.
So they could at least park on there or get right off out of one of the garages, get into the mall, walk down, go to a store, and they could have driven down the alley and seen the backside with the store, store names. So we would gain both things, and we'd be able to keep the mall and then promote it as a world-class destination, which many people around the world do come to see, as opposed to our own residents who don't know anything about it.
well, and again, we're running out of time, but
Yes.
your Facebook page, it sounds like you have an active but quieter group that's, on your side saying don't open it. How can people find out more information about, some of the reasons or, this common ground that you're talking
You could
about?
go to our YouTube channel, Downtown Fresno Coalition, and watch some of the film that Edward Godo has produced that really shows the history of the film and current issues about the Fulton Mall. And then our Facebook page as well. We have numerous links that give background, history, current of things that they could do and join to learn more about the mall. And Doug's the co-chair currently, and I'm a former chair. And we're always there to answer, along with Ed Goto and many of our other members.
Is it too late? I know we're running out of time, but is it a done deal? I mean, is there still?
Well, here's
Not
what
completely. I don't
yeah,
think
no,
we
you've got-
don't want to think
You've
that.
got like 20 seconds.
gotta
so
make it
Okay,
fast.
there's a vote that's going to happen December 3rd.
This will
That's
air
probably going
after,
to come
right?
after our air date, and that's to approve the contract. There are also 2 lawsuits going on about the environmental work, and we'll obviously file injunctions to make sure our day is heard in court on those. And so I think we're very confident that the mall is not going to be destroyed in the near future.
Both of you, thank you so much for coming on the
Great.
program,
Thank you
telling
for
us a
having
little
us.
bit about your organization and some of the goals of your organization.
Well,
Thank you very much for
thanks for
having
the
us.
time.
That's all for this edition of San Joaquin Spotlight. Our guests this week have been from the Downtown Fresno Coalition. We have Doug Richert. I got it on that one. I was close.
That's
and
good.
Kate McKnight.
Right,
I'm going to
thank you.
practice that tonight, by the way.
So Sevag.
I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Thank you to the volunteer crew that make this production and every production possible. We have them in the studio now, and we have them in the control room now. Thank you to our audience members listening to 90.7 FM KFSR Fresno and watching this broadcast on the CMAC channel, Comcast 93 and AT&T 99.